Hi everybody, and welcome back to Teachers Talk Money, where I help teachers master their money in order to give back to themselves. I'm super excited for today's video because we're going to be going over my February budget. And for the most part, things look generally the same, but there are a few key changes. I do want to note that this month my coaching stipend might be coming in, so these numbers are very much subject to change should my income go up. But as always, my plan for that amount of money is to put it towards mostly my Roth IRA, potentially adding it to some other savings accounts, or maybe using a little bit of it as discretionary spending. But the amount is still pretty unknown, simply because it was lowered as a result of the pandemic and the fact that we were coaching virtually rather than in person. And so I'm not exactly sure what the precise number is going to be, but I do know that most of it will be going towards my Roth IRA or other savings. I also want to note that my health insurance costs, I believe, will be going up starting this month in February. So again, my regular income is subject to be a slightly lower than might be reflected in this video. Now let's get into what you're about to see, because there are some key changes. The number one big change that you're going to see is that my rent has decreased from $900 a month to $828 a month. And this is not because I moved. As you can see, I'm in the same apartment, and it's not because I negotiated down my rent or my building lowered it. It is actually because Brian and I have decided to change the way that we split our rent. As I've talked about in some videos before, Brian and I are much more focused on keeping our finances equitable between the two of us versus just splitting everything equally 50-50. And really the only thing this applies to for us that we decided to break up percentage-wise was our rent. Brian makes $60K before taxes, and while my base pay is only about $52, I've really kept up with him as we've dated through the years that we've lived together, because I've taken on multiple stipend positions. My current coaching position, a coaching position previous to that, working over the summer, and of course sponsoring the newspaper, which I still do. And so I've been able to sort of keep my income at the same level of Brian's, and for that reason we've just decided to split it 50-50. Even with those stipends, I still make a little bit less than him, like $1,000 to $2,000 less than him. But the difference of that in our rent, if we split it up percentage-wise, was only like less than $20. And so we just didn't really see a reason to start doing it based on the percentage of our income. But this year, of course, my income was halted due to COVID, and I saw a significant decrease in my coaching stipend, as I mentioned before. And so we were sort of revisiting the numbers on these in order to see if it was worthwhile splitting up based on a percentage instead of 50-50. And the conclusion that we kind of came to was that it was actually a little bit silly that we weren't just basing the division of the rent on just my base salary anyway, because I might have kept up with Brian's salary all these years, but it was through taking on multiple other jobs. And so we actually decided it would be more equitable to just base our split of the rent on the percentage of income we were both taking in. So that ended up being a $72 difference. I think that's with Brian, his income makes up 54% of our household income, and therefore mine makes up 46%. And so he's paying 54% of the rent, and I'm paying 46% of it. And so that means that I'm paying $72 less, and he is paying $72 more. So that's something you're going to see different in my budget today, and you're going to see where that money's going instead. So that was a long introduction to explain this change in my rent. But let's get into my actual budget. I'm gonna flip you guys over my shoulder. Let's check it out. Okay, everyone, so here we are. This is my February 2021 budget. Like I noted before, there are some things that are subject to change. I might be getting my coaching stipend this month. That's what I'm expecting to get it, but I'm not entirely positive. And then I've got my 2 paychecks coming in that will probably be slightly lower than this, because I'm aware that my health insurance costs are going up this year. So a lot of things up in the air, But let's take a look at what my plan is, and I'll just sort of adjust that plan as things change, which is what you should be doing to budget each and every month. So like I introduced you guys to, my rent is much, much lower. I have $72 freed up in my budget now. Everything else on my fixed expenses is the same for car and renter's insurance, same for my phone bill, same for my subscriptions, and the same for Hattie's costs. I made a slight change in my variable expenses. Based on my yearly spending video that I did back in December, I realized that I was almost always going under budget for my going out money, and I was often towing the line or going over budget with my groceries. So I simply took $10 from what I had for dining and put it into my grocery fund just to give me a little bit more breathing room with my groceries and hopefully not challenge me too much with the dining aspect, because I didn't tend to meet my maximum spending on that category anyway. Gas is staying the same for February. We just got word that we're not going back anytime before March 15th for sure, although I'm hoping that it'll be pushed back even later than that because the numbers in my area are absolutely dismal right now. So gas is staying at 30. Again, that's been more than enough to fill it up once if I need to over the month. But some months I haven't even been doing that, as you can see with my yearly spending video. My utilities are at 60. Last year, they never went over $50 a month, so hopefully this is plenty of wiggle room in case I use any extra energy or things like that. And my miscellaneous other stuff is staying at $90, which is almost always a good amount, and then sometimes I'll add extra money into that category if I get more income or if I underspend in another category. So it's really, this one's very, very different every month. Now, my savings are seeing the most changes as a result of my rent money going down. I added just $5 to my gift fund just to add a little bit more breathing room in there for when I'm buying gifts for birthdays or the holidays for my family. My travel fund saw an increase too. I added $40 to this because I've really only been adding about $100 a month to travel. And I would like to just have a little bit more opportunity, especially when we're getting vaccinated and the pandemic becomes less of an issue and travel becomes safe again. I'd really like to have a full fund so that I'm able to really enjoy the travel that I'll actually be able to do. I added $10 to my business fund. I used to just put $70 a month in there. So adding $80 for my recurring costs with my business, as well as saving up a little bit of a cushion in case there's anything big that I'd like to have as a one-time purchase. The next thing I want to talk about is my grad school money, because I have to add a lot more to this than I expected to. The reason for this is that I was basing what I would need to pay on for grad school on just having one course per semester. But I recently learned that for this next portion of my master's program, I'm going to need to be doubling up on classes almost every semester. And for that reason, I need to have double the amount of money I originally planned to. So I'm putting $133 aside for grad school. I also had to increase my summer money savings, because the portion of that I did not account for doubling up my grad school classes this semester that I'm about to start, I just took out of my summer money fund in order to pay it up front. And so now I'm just adding a little bit more each month to my summer money to make sure I have enough when June comes along. So those are all the details and all the ways that my budget has changed. As you can see, it's mostly my savings that have changed as a result of my rent being lowered. And then I just made the one really small change with my variable expenses. As you can see on this, in case you're not familiar with how budgeting works, I don't really need to track anything for my fixed costs. Don't really need to track anything for my savings. I just sort of deposit to my savings, or you can automate that. The only pieces that I do track are these variable costs that are different every month. And I track them in my running totals category. So when I spend some money on that, it shows up down here. And it will also show up in this box, which is great. I love that this is all automatically doing the math for me, which is really the benefit for me of using the spreadsheet, in addition to being able to sort of customize it to my needs. If you would like to use this budget spreadsheet, go to the link in the description of this video and get my free budget template. I've got this spreadsheet template, I have a second spreadsheet template, and it gives you pen and paper templates as well, if that's more your jam. Subscribe to my channel, like this video, comment. All of these things are wonderful in helping me bring this content to more and more teachers and other people looking for help with their money. Have a fantastic week, everyone, and I'll see you next week. Bye.